What if the answers we've been searching for aren't new? What if they're old? Not outdated. Old enough to have survived empires. Every invention. Every war. Every generation. For 6 episodes, we've asked what modern life has stolen. Today, we'd like to begin to talk about how to get it back. For the last several weeks, we've explored attention. We've talked about hurry, noise, wonder, loneliness, the restless mind. But eventually, every diagnosis has to become a prescription. Ancient wisdom doesn't simply explain what is wrong, it shows us another way to live. Today, we'll begin to walk that road. Well, hello, my queen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I'm vacation mode, trying to be in vacation mode.
Yeah.
So
nice to have you.
We are doing we're winding this series down. And we've taken a little bit different format than we normally would take, but I've been pretty pleased with it. Asking a lot of questions, not giving a lot of specificity about answers, because I'd like the listeners to formulate the answers themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but as we wind this down, we've talked pretty much at length about the downside of life, right? Or not the dark side, but the problems, right?
We've been negative.
The negative, certainly. I know somebody needs to start like a negative ministry or something.
Oh, stop it. You and Mike.
I know a couple of chair people.
See, people try to do good things, and there's just negative people all around them.
So, but yeah, we've been in this last week, in my mind, I've really been focusing on the fact that, man, we're really living the things we talked about in the last 5 episodes, right? About hurry, our brains running 1,000 miles an hour, and just everything just being not chaotic, but mm-hmm. in preparation for spending a week at a county fair with mm-hmm. the grandkids.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but
looking forward to that.
But in that preparation, in the hurriedness of the preparation, it's also good. I thought, thinking back on the episodes, thinking about what the thing I'm looking most forward to. Of course, our son-in-law has put me in charge of meals, cooking,
right.
And so we talked about that, sharing a meal together.
Correct, we did. Exactly right.
And so I am looking so forward to that, because Correct. That is something that we don't get to do often, maybe once or twice a year when
Correct.
Usually around the holiday. So I am looking forward to that. And when you camp at the fair, there is a slowness to it. There is a leisure
we hope.
To it. We hope. Because when we stayed last year, we had to stay at a hotel, and we had to drive back and forth. We're camping this year. And so I think that, so there is this hurriedness this week, but when we get there and settle in, there will be a slowness.
And that,
I
not
think
just
we will
that. You're
enjoy.
right. And you're right. And that's how I've been looking forward to that. And even and a lot of people who work, what taking time off does is it loads you up prior and after.
And after.
So now I have to get a lot more things done to be gone a week, cover a lot more bases and things.
Right.
And then there's going to be a pile when you return, which is always a little bit
Right. And there was a little
disheartening, so to speak.
And another thing, thinking back, again, this is for us more than anyone else.
Sure.
But there was a side fact of the preparation of getting, clothes and food, and I had to meal prep some meals for this. But I was also trying to tend to the garden before we left and pick things and pickle things. In our house, I sent a text in the group chat that our home smelled like a pickle factory because I was trying to pick all the cucumbers before we left. And I think we could probably supply the cucumbers have taken over the raised garden.
Yes.
But again, there's a slowness and a rhythm to that when we think back, because we've talked about technology and all of the modern day things that distract us. When you are, so it harkens me back to the times of sitting on my grandfather's back porch and snapping beans and working his garden. Well, we didn't really work his garden, but he would get.
Would he allow you to do that?
No. But he would dig the potatoes and put them in a steel tub, and he would let us wash them, and so just flooded with memories. And so my week was very much a distraction from the distractions.
Well, and not only that, is it because it's flooding with memories. But what is that? In my mind, that's connection.
It is. Oh, yes.
Yes.
And it's been very nice to be busy and productive and not distracted by other things.
Now, but this is what I wanted to talk about right off the get-go is, I can't speak for you, but I will speak for myself. Ancient people knew how to be still. I'll be candid. I still took some time this week to be still.
Right.
And that's been helpful.
And I will add that when you're busy, when it's time to be still, you truly want to be still and not.
I feel like it means more.
It does.
Yeah.
And you just want to be still and quiet, not with noise.
Correct.
Again, another throwback. Yeah.
Distraction or
I want to sit and be quiet.
Well, we have several examples of that, and from ancient people. I mean, we have. But you just said something earlier, and I wanted to focus on that for just a second. Is I've got some what I would call proof, for lack of just some writings that point to the fact that ancient people did kind of know how to be still. And my first thought was, well, yeah, because that's easy when you're in ancient times. They don't have the technology. They don't have this. I don't think that's the case. I don't think life was easier, so it was easier for them to be still. It's like, but that's where I started. That's the rabbit hole I started to go down. But as I thought about it, I thought, I don't think that's right. What I think they really got was that stillness wasn't inactivity. That's what I think we need to delineate a difference. they looked at stillness as an activity, as a preparation for something else. So, we have writings that tell us that Jesus withdrew repeatedly. We know that Moses climbed a mountain alone. We know that Elijah, as big and bad as Elijah was, and as sarcastic as he could be, he had just had enough. And he went a day's journey. And sitting under a tree, he wanted to die. He asked God, let me just die. And in that stillness, and in that quiet, he finally heard the voice of God in a whisper. Not in the storm not in the wind in a storm, not in fire. A whisper that he never could have gotten had he stayed in the chaos. We also have writings from what are referred to as the Desert Fathers, right? And they withdrew from many places, all over Egypt, Palestine, and Syria. I'm thinking of guys like Anthony the Great, or Macarius the Great, or Pachymenes, I think is the way you say it, or Pachymius. Those they withdrew from cities. They went out in the desert, and they became what I think that's a term we use today, as they became ascetics. They didn't talk much. They pondered, they prayed, and that was kind of their life. And out of that came some amazing writings, because they knew how to be still. And so how do we be still? I think that's the writings tell us. You can look, when you want to talk about Jesus withdrawing, you can look at Mark 1, verse 35. I have my Bible here. And Mark 1, verse 35, let me get there. Jesus has been on a mission, right? He's been healing people, and people are following him, and it's getting chaotic and taxing on him. In verse 35 of chapter 1 of the book of Mark, it is written, "In the early morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went away to a secluded place, and was praying there." I think that lends itself to say, how often do we seclude ourselves? Or do we go to a secluded place? I know my princess, she used to have her clothes hole.
Yes.
And now my granddaughter,
yep.
itty bitty pretty one, has her clothes hole, the secluded place. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, and it's not our daughter's daughter; it's our son's daughter.
Correct.
Yes.
But there's this something in us, and that's the point of this entire series. Truly, is there something in us that drives us to search, right? This started with, there has to be more than this, right? I've told the story repeatedly about from when I was listening to this Stephen Bartlett, the Diary of a CEO, And he talked about a dear friend of his who had made billions of dollars through tech, and left London and moved to Dubai and was living the life, literally living the life. I mean, he had to do nothing. All of his wants and desires and everything are paid for. And a depression hit him after about 6 months. And he contemplated suicide. That tells me that's not where it's at, right? I know that. I know that. Personally, I know that.
Mm-hmm.
And we have proof all around us. We sometimes just need to seclude so we can hear that whisper that Elijah heard. That thing that we're looking for, that we, and our next episode, I will dive deeply into answering a lot of those questions about all of the things in life that we look to for purpose, we look to for meaning, we look to for the comfort, the happiness, all those other things that I don't like talking about, are the adjectives. We could also look at Luke 5 when we're talking about Jesus withdrawing. In verses 15 and 16, it says, it is written, but the news about him, this is actually when Jesus learns of John the Baptist being beheaded, okay? But the news about him was spreading even farther, and larger crowds. I'm sorry. This is when he was healing. He healed a lot of people, including the lepers and the paralytic. And that news was spreading about Jesus. So now more and more people are coming. It's, I guess in modern terms, we would say he's going viral. At this point in the ancient world, he's going viral. And so large crowds were gathering to hear him and to be healed of their sickness. But Jesus himself would often slip away to the wilderness, seclusion, and pray. And again, when we're talking about Jesus specifically, we have to really, for the most part, stick into the Gospels. So jumping into Matthew 14, you know the story about feeding the 5,000. In verse 13, it is written, now when Jesus heard about John, this is when he's learned about the beheading of John the Baptist, he withdrew from there in a boat to a secluded place by himself. And when the people heard of this, what did they do? They followed him on foot from the cities. So he gets in a boat, goes to the other side to get away. They just start hoofing it because they're needing what he has. And I talked about Moses. We could look in Exodus. Exodus 24 and verse 12. Now the Lord said to Moses, come up to me on the mountain and remain there And I will give you the stone tablets with the law and the commandments, which I have written for their instructions. So Moses arose with Joshua his servant, and Moses went up to the mount of God. But to the elders he said, Wait here, for so until we return to you, and behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a legal matter, let him approach them. Then Moses went up to the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory of the Lord rested on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. And on the 7th day, he called to Moses from the midst of the cloud. I want to stop right there I can't tell you how many times I've read this story. And it was for the first time I paused. And the glory of the Lord rested on the Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. 6 days. Moses is still in seclusion. Then on the 7th day, he called to Moses from the midst of the cloud. They knew how to be still. I've already talked about Elijah. That was in 1 Kings 19. I've talked about the Desert Fathers. So that makes me, to these people, stillness wasn't an escape. It was where clarity was born. Right? So that just makes me ask some more questions, right? I like asking questions. So when was the last time you intentionally sat in silence? Here's another one. What decisions are you trying to make without first becoming still? You know, I talked the other day about the episode about my mind will not stop talking. Something else the ancients didn't do, they didn't overthink. Because we have screwed something up here, and the ancient people had this understood. There is a difference between wisdom and control. In our modern world, we truly, and I know I'm speaking in generalities here, we like to control things. We want to control. We want a sense of certainty. That's not what the ancient people lived by. Ancient people across the globe wanted faithfulness. They understood. I don't need to know tomorrow. I need to be present today. And if we can get in that mindset, then we can quiet the mind. And we don't have to overthink. I've talked many times on this podcast about my deeper dive into Taoism. And if you go to chapter 48 of the Tao Te Ching, it says true mastery can be gained by letting things go their own way. It can't be gained by interfering. And Taoism is based strongly on natural law. And that's absolutely true because that applies to nature, right? When we interfere, we kind of mess it up. Mm-hmm. In chapter 15, do you have patience to wait till the mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? And it's so true, right? I mean, we could take a jar, fill it with water, with mud in it. And every time we try to put something in there to separate it, mm-hmm. we only stir it more.
Right.
Right?
Right.
This is a truth.
Right.
That we can apply to our own lives.
There's that saying, clear as mud.
Correct. Correct. But this is all about becoming still. And in chapter 16 of the Tao Te Ching, attain complete emptiness and hold firmly to stillness. In Philippians, St. Paul wrote in chapter 4, take your concerns to God, the one who created you. What are we overthinking? How often had we said...
Everything and...
Right. How often have we said... We have writings of this in Psalms and several scriptures about the potter and the clay. Why are you making me this way? Or what do you do? You know, all of that. My man in the book of Proverbs wrote, we must train ourselves to live with uncertainty. In Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. I want to read the psalmist. Psalm 131. Verses 1 and 2. O Lord, my heart is not proud, nor my eyes haughty, nor do I involve myself in great matters, or in things too difficult for me. Surely I have composed and quieted my soul. Like a weaned child rests against his mother, my soul is like a weaned child within me. The psalmist decided not to overthink. The psalmist decided to be still. And we can do the same thing in this modern world of ours. And not to be outdone, we can then go to the prophet Isaiah. Chapter 26, verse 3. The steadfast of mind you will keep in perfect peace, because he trusts in you. What Isaiah is saying here is, fix your mind on God. Fix your mind on what created you, and not on every possible outcome.
Didn't I just read that to you yesterday, last night, this morning? I don't know.
Sometime in there, right.
Where's the fun in that? It was a joke, kids.
I know. Just some things I wanted to,
share in love.
No, just these are practices. These are things that we can do today that ancient people knew.
I know, and you're sharing them in love.
And we need to grab hold of these and apply them in our lives. So how much energy do you spend trying to control tomorrow? What if today is enough?
Mm-hmm.
Ancient people also protected wonder. Wonder wasn't entertainment. Wonder was worship. And I talked about it when we talked about wonder on the episode. Children naturally wonder, don't they? It's the beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Ancient people intentionally preserved wonder. We have it written time and time again in ancient text. The heavens declare, right? A seed, a sunrise, bread, wine, birth, death. Everything pointed beyond itself. Wonder wasn't childish. It was wisdom. So the question is, what still fills you with wonder or awe? And another question. When did you stop noticing ordinary miracles? Another thing the ancients did, and we would say, oh, well, this is just because they didn't have technology. They lived face to face. As you brought up, meals mattered. Neighbors mattered. Families mattered. Stories mattered. Because in our modern world, we confuse. Technology connects information, not us. Presence connects the soul. So connection and wisdom and love, the ancients knew, happens in proximity, which is what you were saying, and we're excited about this coming week and being in proximity with the grandkids and the kids.
Mm-hmm.
They were in awe of that. They held close to that. And we've experienced this, have we not?
Mm-hmm.
You and I were just talking about that, about Sundays used to be the day, right?
Mm-hmm. Dinners were made.
Mm-hmm.
A big thing. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So here's a question. Who needs your presence more than another text message? Or another question. What conversations have you postponed? You know what just struck me? You know what else ancient people knew? They knew where wisdom ultimately comes from. You know, Proverbs chapter 1 says, wisdom begins with the fear of the Lord, right? And actually, Ecclesiastes concludes the same way. John tells us something pretty amazing, something to be in awe of. John says, the Word became flesh. I'm beginning to believe or understand ancient wisdom wasn't simply teaching principles. I would purport potentially it was preparing humanity to recognize a person. and I'll get into this more in our next episode, but Christ is wisdom made visible. This is where I think I don't know, maybe we've forgotten. Instead, this hurts me sometimes to say this. You know me. Maybe we don't need another productivity system. Maybe we don't need another app. Maybe we don't need another life hack. Maybe what we're really longing for is an older way of seeing. You brought this up. A slower way of living. A quieter mind. A heart capable of wonder. Ancient wisdom doesn't ask us to go backward. It does invite us to become fully human again. So, if you've been through the series with us, you've probably noticed something. We've talked about our restlessness, our hurry, our loneliness, the noise inside our minds, the loss of wonder. Today, we've begun recovering something we didn't realize we'd misplaced. But one question still remains. Why? Why does this ancient wisdom still speak so powerfully to people living thousands of years later? Is it simply because our ancestors were observant? Or is there something deeper? Something underneath all of it? King Solomon spent an entire life searching for meaning. He pursued pleasure, success, wealth, knowledge, work. Everything this world promises will satisfy us. And after all of it, he reached one remarkable conclusion. So next time we're going to stand with Solomon to the end of Ecclesiastes and hear the words that tie this entire journey together. Because sometimes the most important truth isn't found at the beginning of the search. It's found at the end. Thank you for joining us today on Crusade with me. Today's conversation encouraged you to share this episode with someone who's been searching for a quieter mind, a slower life, or a deeper purpose. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What practice from today's episode do you want to begin this week? Until next time, slow down, pay attention, seek what is true, and keep walking the ancient path because it still leads home. Grace and peace, my friends.